The numbers continue to fall in for different championship games or bowl games versus the Celebration Bowl. We're going to talk about how the Celebration Bowl outdid a lot of your favorite Power 5 teams right after the bumper. What's good people? Jeff Lightsy Jr. here with the Black Boss Channel and Victory Formation. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and the notification bell because we upload every single day. Now, the Celebration Bowl was played back in mid-December, but since then, a bunch of bowl games have been played with some of your favorite Power 5 schools, some of your alumni. Some of you guys are alumni at some of these schools, and we're going to look at how the Celebration Bowl stacked up against some of these big-time programs in these so-called big-time bowl games. Now, I shared with you guys back probably about a few weeks ago now on my YouTube page about how the Celebration Bowl did against the Peach Bowl, which was a New Year's Six day. Well, I guess it couldn't have been a couple weeks ago. It had to be like a week ago. The New Year's Six game, the Peach Bowl between Pittsburgh and Michigan State. And both games were played at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. And this graphic is from Light On Sports, and it says the 2021 Celebration Bowl outdrew in attendance in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The HBCU bowl game outdraws a New Year's Six bowl game. So the attendance at the Celebration Bowl, as you see, was 48,653, whereas the Peach Bowl played in the same exact spot between two Power 5 teams. Granted, their best players didn't play. Kenneth Walker didn't play for Michigan State. Kenny Pickett didn't play for Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh, who hadn't won an ACC championship in a very long time, and Michigan State being the most relevant they've been in a very, very long time, you would think that these fan bases with these huge alumni bases and these huge student body bases would travel down to Atlanta, a great fun city, and attend the game for a New Year's Eve kind of present to themselves, breaking the new year, watching their team play against each other, their favorite schools, their favorite teams or whatever. And the Celebration Bowl not only beat the Peach Bowl, it destroyed the Peach Bowl. 41,230 people in attendance versus 48,653 people in attendance for the Celebration Bowl, which was technically a soccer sellout. So for those of you were like, oh, you keep calling it a sellout, Jeff, but Mercedes-Benz Stadium holds 65, 70,000 people and there's only 48,000. Well, when the Atlanta FC team plays in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, this is the amount of allotted seats that is allowed. So this is what we call a soccer sellout or an FC sellout, because that is the way the stadium was designed for soccer games as far as like seats and allowing certain places to be open. So they didn't have all those open because you got to think the Celebration Bowl had, I'm not going to say it had bad attendance, but hadn't topped its attendance since the first year was played and had topped its ratings since the first year was played. So, they had, obviously you expected to be a lot better with Deion Sanders, JSU and stuff, but I don't think they expected it to sell out. You guys sold it out. They had to open up 1,000 standing room only tickets, and then they sold those out. So 48,653 people versus 41,230 people at the Peach Bowl, which is a New Year's Six game, one of those New Year's Six games put on by the Power 5. So that is what you're doing against that competition. But that isn't all. That isn't all. I'm going to show you. We're going to look at this article put out by HBCU Game Day. Shout out to the guys at HBCU Game Day. They do a great job over there. Over there at HBCU Game Day, they broke down a ton of the major bowl games that have been played. So you got the Rose Bowl, Cotton Bowl, Music City Bowl. So there's a bunch of those games. Obviously, Ohio State, Utah. The Utah guys traveled. Rose Bowl's in LA. Utah made it happen. Bama's always going to travel. Cincinnati may have had more people at the Cotton Bowl down in Dallas for Bama and Cincy. Tennessee, Purdue had 69,000. Georgia, Michigan. And these are, you got to think, like this game is for a spot in the championship game. This game is a spot in the championship game as far as FBS, Power 5, or whatever, college football playoff. Utah to LA isn't very far, and Ohio State fans travel. And then the Sugar Bowl was played in New Orleans, which is really close in proximity to both Texas and Ole Miss. So you got to, all of those games did what they're supposed to do. Here's the Celebration Bowl. So we got your 48,653. Look at all these big-time Power 5 programs and matchups that didn't do as well as the Celebration Bowl. You got Mississippi State, which is a Mississippi school, by the way, and Texas Tech in Memphis down at the Liberty Bowl. They have less than the Celebration Bowl. The Birmingham Bowl, which had Auburn in Birmingham, Alabama. Think about this, guys. Birmingham, Alabama, Auburn and Houston. Houston is in Texas. Auburn is in Alabama. This game was played in Birmingham, Alabama. The Celebration Bowl did better. Outback, Penn State, Arkansas, 2 Power 5 schools, a Big Ten school and an SEC school. The Celebration Bowl did better then. The Battle of Carolinas, UNC versus South Carolina. The Celebration Bowl did better. Look at, we already talked about the other game that was played at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium between 2 Power 5 schools, 2 schools that had, Heisman contenders, 2 schools that have future first-round picks, 2 schools that played at the exact same place as the Celebration Bowl, and they did 7,000 more. Clemson. Now, granted, this was a down year for Clemson, and maybe the fans say, hey, we don't want to travel to a Cheez-It Bowl. That's not our problem. Cheez-It Bowl, Clemson, Iowa State a chance to knock off Clemson to get a big-time win. 39,000. Armed Forces Bowl, Washington State versus Central Mid. So look at these major bowl games. This is the Celebration Bowl. So everything under them, they outdrew. What does this tell you? What does it say to you? I know what it says to me, but what does it say to you? Please let me know in the chat. Please let me know in the chat and in the comments what this says to you. What it says to me is that if you're a recruit, if you're a guy considering Jackson State or FAMU or Grambling or Texas Southern, Mississippi Valley, etc., and you get a chance to play in the premier HBCU college football game, in the HBCU national championship, as some people would say. Some would argue against it, but some would say the national championship. In the premier HBCU football game of the year, of the entire year, there's a good chance, even if you go to Mississippi State or Texas Tech or Houston, Clemson, Penn State, Arkansas, etc., you won't see a crowd like you'll see at the Celebration Bowl. You won't see people that look like you, me, your mama, your daddy, your auntie, grandmama, and them, all them, in the stands, capacity, packed out, 48,000, like you will in the Celebration Bowl. This is motivation and this is inspiration. Looking at these numbers, looking at what took place, looking how all this went down, this is motivation and inspiration. Why? Because the leaders at both the MEAC and the SWAC now have a standard. I'm not so sure if a standard or if they kind of just were like, throwing things at a wall and seeing what would stick. There is now a standard, because now anything less than 48,000 at the Celebration Bowl should be a disappointment. Now, granted, we know the fanfare that Jackson State brings. Hell, I know it just from my channel. From you guys coming in here, Jackson State rolls heavy. Any video that I put up about Jackson State, it gets the clicks, it gets the likes, it gets the views. Because you guys down there, 1400 Lynch Street in Jackson, Mississippi, you love yourself some Tigers. I'm just putting it out there. You can fight me if you think it's different. Them folks, they love and they support the Tigers. JSU, they support Coach Prime, they support the program, everything. So if the Celebration Bowl, let's say FAMU wins the SWAC this year. Let's say Grambling wins the SWAC this year. Let's say it's any other team besides Jackson State. Do you think you can still get that number? I think you can. I think you can. There should be no excuse to not get that number. Anything below that number should be a disappointment. Honestly, you should start to make it to where the good folks down there at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium have to open up more sections. We're trying to get a full stadium capacity, a full stadium sellout, the 65, 70,000 sellout, and not just the 48. That should be the goal. So there's no more going backwards. There's no more going in reverse. It should only go up. And when you see the list of schools and you see the names and you see the bowl games that you did better than, and that you were in, you were in rock throwing distance. Look, you were in rock throwing distance of the Fiesta Bowl, another what they used to call BCS Bowl or, New Year's Six Bowl. You were in rock throwing distance. You had 1,000 less people. And if you would have opened it up, you would have got that. It was to Oklahoma State, Notre Dame. Notre Dame, last I checked, didn't have any opt-outs. The coach left. They didn't have any opt-outs. Oklahoma State didn't have any opt-outs. You can say, oh, well, Michigan State and Pittsburgh had opt-outs. Yeah, but they still destroyed the Peach Bowl. Like, they destroyed the Peach Bowl. 41,000 compared to 48. You were in rock throwing distance of both the Citrus Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl. That should be the goal. Nothing less than 50,000 moving forward. Because you just showed that you can do it. If nothing less than 50,000. I spoke about like Jackson State's home attendance and how I feel like they'll average 48 plus. So if one school can average 48 plus, I think the Celebration Bowl between the winner of the SWAC, whether that's FAMU, Jackson State, Grambling, Prairie View, Alcorn, whoever, and the winner of the MEAC, whether that's South Carolina State again or any of those other schools, no less than 50,000. And they should open it up to 50,000. But the Celebration Bowl is building upon building blocks. That's something very, very special. You were in spitting distance of the Fiesta Bowl. You destroyed the Peach Bowl and several other bowl games that featured like Clemson and Penn State and Arkansas, et cetera, et cetera. This is what we're talking about when we're saying the momentum is being built. This is what I am talking about when I'm saying you are the reason why these programs are so successful. This is what I'm talking about when I say you are the reason why I'm able to make a video like this and talk about how the attendance at the Celebration Bowl trounced other big-time Power 5 bowl games. And so when these people act all crazy and like, oh, Travis Hunter chose Jackson State over, Florida State and Georgia and blah, blah, blah. Well, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Florida State, one, is garbage. Two, out of those, when we looked at those attendance, those attendances at their bowl games, and we can do the same for their home attendance or on the road attendance in those Power 5 conferences, 50,000 people, okay, 50, 60,000, 100,000 in some cases. What percentage of those people look like you? They always say representation matters. Image matters. Representation, representation, blah, blah, blah. What percentage of those people at Penn State, they see the 100,000 at their home games? What percentage of those people look like Travis Hunter, look like me, look like you? What percentage? Is it 10, 15, 20 maybe? You got like the parents of the athletes, a few students. That's about it. They don't really like you. I can guarantee you that's not the case at Jackson State, at Grambling, at Morgan State, at South Carolina State, at FAMU. It's not the same. But when you see 50,000 and only 10% look like you, the parents and a few students, parents, family, and a few students, it ain't the same. But when you see 50,000 of people that look like you, look like your mama, look like your grandmama, yeah, that matters. That kind of representation matters. And that's why I think it's so critical for these universities, FAMU, Jackson State, Grambling, whoever, Texas Southern, whoever, to continue to get those kids in on visits, not just during the off season, but during the season. Because I can tell you this, I've been to a ton of football games, a ton of both high school, college, and pro football. I've been to a whole lot of games. I've never seen I haven't been to an HBCU game, and I've never seen a stadium with 40, 50, 60,000 people that look like me. I've never seen it. I've been to Alabama games. I've been to, University of Louisville, Kentucky, Western Kentucky University, bunch of different games. I've seen a bunch of different teams play, LSU, bunch of different teams play. I can tell you the percentage of black folks in there is about 20%. You take out the family, you're down to about 5 or 10. I've never seen 50,000 people that look like me in a stadium. I can only imagine that it's magical. So much so that the number one player in the country decided this is what I want to see every week, not whatever I was seeing at Florida State. And the bowl games are just the same. Proof's in the pudding. Jackson State, HBCU football, all these guys, Tennessee State, they're coming up. And they're a force to be reckoned with. The more these young men visit these schools and you learn the history of the university, not just the athletics program, because you look at the history of some of these other universities, like go look at the history of the University of Ole Miss. University of Mississippi is what it's called, but Ole Miss. Look at that history. Look at the history of Alabama. Look at the history of University of Kentucky. Look at these SEC schools don't have the best history. They don't want to tell you about that shit. They don't want to tell you about, armed guards, the National Guards having to walk the first few black students into the university, I think Arkansas. They don't want to tell you about that. They don't want to tell you about how blacks couldn't play, didn't integrate the SEC until the 60s, right? Nate Northington did it at the University of Kentucky. They don't want to tell you about that, the death threats he got when he was at the University of Kentucky. They don't want to tell you about that stuff. When he integrated a game against Ole Miss, better known as Mississippi University. They don't want to tell you about that stuff. But when you learn the history about these HBCUs, and then you go to the games and play for these historic coaches, like a Coach Prime, like a Eddie George, like I can't think of it, Hugh Jackson. It's a whole lot different. This is all I have to say, but I'm so proud of Celebration Bowl. I know it's going to be bigger and better in 2022. Leave your thoughts in the chat over the Celebration Bowl, what you think is going to happen. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at JLightsy7, Instagram and Twitter at JLightsy7, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Jeff Lightsy Jr., for content just like this, HBCU content just like this. Hit the thumbs up button, you guys. Thank you all for tuning in. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out, and I will see you next time. Peace.